There is a reason why I emphasize the fact that young or old, male or female, foreign or domestic, the pathology of these people remains the same. Okay. Now, while we have people who come out and they talk about Black degeneracy and they put out these statistics on Black crime and things like that, we fail to take control of the narrative, although we have a very powerful tool, media apparatus called social media. And what's really interesting is that a lot of people and a lot of the so-called scholars that people follow will sit around and say, oh, well, you know, we don't have a media tool. The media is using propaganda against us to paint a certain narrative. But what we don't realize is that now we have the media apparatus too. We have it. And it's very popular than mainstream media. It's called social media and YouTube. Yet we refuse to use this media apparatus to switch the narrative and take the control back and show that not only do we not fit the stereotypes, the negative stereotypes that are placed on us, but that the people who actually do are given the privilege of not having to face their degeneracy. So ultimately it comes to us not having any excuse. We really don't. We don't have an excuse as to why our reputation is the way that it is, because we could be grabbing control of the narrative, using social media and flooding the internet with this. We should be making them force their own level of degeneracy. But we don't do that. So in this case, you have a boy, a teenager, who was given life in prison because he raped and beat his 10-year-old stepsister to death, all while they were walking to a store. Now, in this situation, like many other situations with them, we're going to have to, the story unfolds, we're going to try to see if there's some kind of motive, because we know that historically and presently, a lot of the crimes that they commit are without motive. They simply are doing it just to be doing it. We have to understand who these people are, and I think that that's one of the biggest flaws that we have as a community, is that we refuse to acknowledge and accept who these people are. You have Black people because they want to mate and procreate them with them, all under the guise of trying to say that they're evil, they're Esau, and all this other stuff. When it comes to that, you sure have no problem advocating for dating them and procreating them. So there's a sick pathology that's prevalent in us as a people, to where not only do we not recognize who these people are, but we actually love them, despite all the evil that they've done, all the evil that they continue to do. Now, I want to go to this news clip so you can hear more about this story, and then I'll come back with some commentary.
Kaya Campbell probably never thought she had a reason to fear Aiden Zelmer. After all, the 10-year-old girl shared a home with the 15-year-old boy. His mother dated her father. The two were walking along the Thornton Greenbelt when Aiden claimed the two got separated during a rainstorm. The storm, neighbors say, never occurred. Her beaten body would soon be found in a ravine. Investigators say she'd been sexually assaulted. Because Zelmer is a minor, his mugshot has never been released, even though he was charged as an adult.
He is facing a life sentence with the possibility of parole after 40 years, which is the same sentence he would have been facing if he went to trial.
District Attorney Dave Young says he agreed to drop the sex assault counts because conviction on those charges would not have added to Zelmer's prison time, and because doing so qualifies the now 16-year-old for a juvenile offender program that offers treatment and the possibility of parole after 30 years.
If he would have been convicted of sexual assault, he would not be eligible for the program.
Zelmer's mother, seen in this wheelchair being pushed by Zelmer's twin brother, declined to speak with reporters afterward. Same for the victim's family. But the DA says Campbell's parents were satisfied with the plea deal.
I think there's a sense of relief that they have some closure in the criminal justice system. But nothing we do here today is going to bring them absolute relief for what happened to their daughter.
Rob Lowe, fine.
Now, you guys heard that news clip, and hopefully when we go through this report, you will have more details about what actually happened in this situation. Now, this is actually the predator in question, the murderous psychopath, and he is 17 years old. His name is Aiden Zellerman, and he pled guilty to first-degree murder in the 2017 death of Kaya Campbell last month in Adams County District Court. Now, the thing of it is they said that they dropped the sexual predator charges because it wouldn't contribute to his sentence. But I suspect that they did it because they wanted him to prevent him from being raped in prison. Because we know there's a stigma around sexual predators, especially those of children. And so I think that they did that so that it would result in a in a different experience for him in prison, rather than having to live his life in prison as a sexual predator. Now, they said he was going to be charged with first-degree murder with intent and after deliberation, and first-degree murder of a child under the age of 12 by a person in a position of trust. But in exchange for his guilty plea, prosecutors dropped the additional count of first-degree murder and a sexual assault charge against him. Now, this is what I also talk about when it comes to the crime data in our community, and how you end up having it where they're getting charges reduced and minimized so that they will have the ability, to be out of jail, because they gave him life in prison with the possibility of parole after 40 years. So that means by the time he's 57, he can get out of prison, possibly before that. It says, in 27 years as a prosecutor, I have never seen a 15-year-old commit such a violent act, 17th Judicial District Attorney Dave Youngsing. Yeah, but this is look at who he is. This is just who their pathology is. If they have the capacity to do this before the age that many people say their identities are even formed, that right there tells you what the pathology really is. It says he wanted to do this. His actions certainly dictate that he intended to kill her, and it took quite an effort to do it. And then to conceal it, not only to hide the body, but mislead. Certainly indicates that his brain was developed and he knew what he was doing, said Young. Of course he did, and they always know what they're doing. They always know. But this is just who they are. Now, they said Kaya disappeared on the night of June 7th while walking to a store with him. Her body was found beaten to death in a ravine the following day, just a mile away from the home in Thornton where Kaya's father lived with his girlfriend and 2 other sons. Zelmer, who was 15 at the time, initially told investigators that he and Kaya were separated when he started running to escape a rainstorm. Neighbors disputed that there was rain in that area that night. Of course there weren't. Now they said that due to the age, he will automatically be eligible for parole after 40 years in prison, but he could get out in 30 with the reduction in time for good behavior. Now, didn't I tell you guys that he will possibly get out before that? And that means he will be 47 instead of 57. And this situation where he gets out in 30 years is the more likely scenario. Zelmer will serve the first 2 years of his sentence in a juvenile detention facility before being transferred to an adult prison when he turns 18. Young said Zelmer's guilty plea offers some relief to Kaya's family by avoiding the stress of a trial where he had been tried as an adult. A 10-year-old's life is gone and her parents are going to be without her for the rest of their lives, he told CBS. I think there's a sense of relief that they have some closure in the criminal justice center, but nothing we do here today is going to bring them absolute relief for what happened to their daughter. Look, this is the thing. People really, and see, it's funny. I'll tell you guys a quick story before I leave and end this video. But there was some issues at one of my nephew's schools in Seattle where there were some students who were in the classroom, white students, of course, racially taunting, putting swastikas everywhere, making nigger jokes. And one of them chose to do it around my nephew. This is when, although he's biracial, he got the awakening that he would be treated just like a black person because he wasn't aware of that being biracial. He thought that, you know, the white people around saw him as white, and that is because of his dad. His dad had somehow led him to believe that, you know, he was white. I remember telling my sister, you know, don't try to convince him that he's not white. Let his experiences show him, because you can best believe he will find out very soon that he's not. And I didn't want her doing it. I wanted the experience of his white peers to tell him that, so he can see not what his mom thinks, but what his actual white peers that he thought that he was the same as thought of him. And so we went up to the school and we were having, you know, discussions with the principal and teachers. And because I went up there because I'm like, okay, this is clearly blatant racism, and something needs to be done, because they kept putting him in the classroom with the white supremacists and terrorists and training. They kept putting him in a classroom with it. So one of the excuses that they gave me is that they were like, oh, well, these are just kids, trying to brush their racism off as child's play. And I was like, well, the thing of it is, Hitler was once a kid too. And although that statement threw her, I think she needed to understand that certain behaviors in children is indicative of a pathology that's going to be present as an adult. Because to say that that person is a child, okay, well, children grow up into being adults. So who cares? To me, I'm looking at it as, if that's what they're doing as a child, what are they going to be doing as an adult? This is not just something that's innocent and trivial, like maybe pushing someone or bullying on a playground, where you can say, okay, well, that's just childlike behavior. This is a pathology that's present in them I believe, from birth to childhood to adolescence to adulthood. You maybe just don't see it because babies aren't able to express it, but you have kids at the age of 6 white kids at the age of 6 plotting to kill people. So this is a pathology that's prevalent globally in them. And I don't think it can just be set up here and dismissed as, oh, they're just a kid. And unfortunately, many Black people have that mentality, and there needs to be some kind of acknowledgement that when you see things like this as in childhood behavior, you don't need to just dismiss it as child's play. You need to understand that this is a pathology that's blooming, and that needs to be taken seriously and addressed and dealt with. But thank you guys for your support. You let me know what you think of this, and I'll see you in the next video.